Fiery foods and New England cooking are complete opposites. Despite that, I make a dish that I've been eating in one form or another since I was a kid. Today, I'll put together a spicy recipe that'll warm you from tongue to tummy. I'll also tell you about traditional Yankee spices and the best tortilla chips on this week's Making a Mess with the Yankee Camper Spanish Rice.
You know, when I was a kid, I hated white rice. I'd take some barbecue sauce and mix it in with the rice and make kind of a Spanish rice type of recipe. Well, this is a real Spanish rice recipe, and I'm going to give you the ingredients you need to get started. So first of all, you'll need a 5-ounce can of white chicken breast, 4 ounces of corn niblets, and a quarter of a cup of white rice. I've put that white rice into a Loctite bag, and into it I've added a half a teaspoon of chicken bouillon, a half a teaspoon of cilantro, a quarter of a teaspoon of onion powder, a quarter of a teaspoon of dried jalapeno. If you don't have dried jalapeno, crushed red pepper works just as fine. I like to use the jalapeno because I have it. A quarter of a teaspoon of cumin, a quarter of a teaspoon of garlic powder, a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. I prefer using the coarse salt. If you're going to use regular table salt, you might want to use just a little bit less. And a dash of black pepper. Again, this is coarse black pepper. If you have regular table black pepper, you might want to use a little bit less of that as well. I'm going to go ahead and put all of those into my paper bag. And then, in addition, I'm going to add in 2 packets of ketchup and 2 packets of hot sauce. You can use taco sauce, hot sauce, mild sauce, whatever works for you. I've marked this Spanish rice so I don't mix it up with my other meals. And I will see you out at the campsite.
New England has some great regional foods: cider donuts, Boston cream pie, baked beans, lobster rolls, Boston scrod, and clam chowder, to name a few. I grew up eating all of these. And the area has embraced some imported fare as well: Polynesian, Italian, German, Irish, and Polish. But traditional Yankees shied away from cuisine from India, Thailand, or Mexico. Well, basically because we're wimps when it comes to hot spices. Let's face it, we embrace boiling an entire meal in a big pot, including smoked shoulder, cabbage, potatoes, carrots, and onions. The only spices added are salt and pepper, if you're being fancy, add a bay leaf. The next day, cut and mash that together to make hash. That's good eating. Don't get me wrong, Yankee cooks didn't entirely shun spices. They added cinnamon to apple pie and nutmeg to eggnog. My mother even sprinkled sweet paprika onto her signature macaroni salad, made with mayonnaise. But that was mostly to give it a bit of color. Our paprika was so old it had probably lost its flavor when LBJ defeated Goldwater. I was still in diapers. I mean, I knew about herbs growing up, like thyme, sage, parsley, thanks to Simon and Garfunkel on WBZ. But if we had these, they were buried so far back in the cabinet, I don't remember them. And they certainly weren't used in the pots on the stove. Now, I know we had oregano because that went into spaghetti sauce. And it didn't matter what the pasta was: angel hair, ziti, rotini, elbows. The tomato and hamburger based topping was spaghetti sauce. It had a bay leaf added too, but the bulk of the flavor came from the simmering bell pepper, mushrooms, onion, and garlic on low heat, not from little jars of ground powder or dried leaves. Oregano was the exotic spice. Of course, at Thanksgiving, we had Bell's seasoning for the bread stuffing, but that's a topic for another time. I remember when I moved into my first apartment, I bought a fancy spice rack for the kitchen. I took it with me through 3 subsequent relocations. When I moved out after 20 years, some of the containers were still unopened. Such is the spice of life. Crushed red pepper, chili powder, cayenne, and other food enhancers with capsaicin just didn't exist in my parents' house. Now, the local restaurants show the Scoville scale on their menus, but that simply didn't exist in my young world. Yeah, we had peppers. They were the sweet green bell type. Scoville rating 0. Now, you know. We'll head out to the campsite in a moment to start putting the Spanish rice recipe together. But first, how about a cup of coffee?
I don't have any endorsements for making these videos, but there is a cost associated with things like campsite fees and supplies. This channel runs on coffee. If you enjoy the work that I do in creating these videos and would like to help out with expenses, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. It doesn't need to be much, just a couple of dollars. I'll put a link in the description. Now, let's get back to the video. This recipe is relatively straightforward, so let's get out our ingredients. We've got a can of chicken, our pre-made rice mix, 4 ounces of corn niblets, 2 packets of ketchup, and I've got 2 packages of hot sauce. I'm going to try one just to see how hot it is, and then I'll add the second one in if I need to. This is a 1-pot recipe, so I won't need my fry pan. I will need a measuring cup. I'm going to use the small pot and the small cover. Place the rest of those aside. To begin, for a quarter of a cup of rice, I'm going to need a half a cup of liquid. Open the corn and just drain that liquid right into the cup. Place the corn niblets aside. Now this chicken breast is in water. I'm going to use that liquid as well. That gives me just about a half a cup of liquid for the rice. The liquid from the corn and the chicken will infuse those flavors right into the rice as it cooks. Pour that liquid right into your saucepan. Place this aside. Put the cover on and heat that liquid over high. Let's go to the stove. I'm going to light the stove and put that liquid on high until it boils. That'll probably take about 2 minutes or so for it to come up to a rolling boil. So that liquid's boiling. I'm going to turn it down to low and stir in the rice. Let that rice continue to cook on low for about 15 minutes or so. It won't quite be done, but we need to cook it off at the end. I'll see you in 15 minutes.
I wish I'd thought about a side when I was putting this meal together. Maybe some Fritos would have gone well. But let's face it, if you want great tortilla chips, you have to go to Brockton, Massachusetts. Now, I'm not a connoisseur of Mexican food, bland upbringing and all, but heading only 20 miles south of Boston doesn't seem far enough. Nevertheless, I know it tastes good, and me Niña chips are the best I've had. Don't just take my word for it. Chowhound compared 15 store-bought brands, and these ranked as number one. I'd had corn chips as a kid. I. And Doritos were basically a staple in high school. Although they're chips made with corn, they're not tortilla corn chips. I discovered the Mi Niña brand a number of years ago, and I knew from the story on the bag that they were made locally. When I started researching, I'd expected to find a Mexican American working on the American dream to recreate an experience that had been part of childhood. What I hadn't expected was a well respected Boston area chef who'd opened French and Mediterranean restaurants, but was missing the tortillas from his mother in law. Chef Jamie Mamano approached the prospect of making tortillas for resale with culinary precision. In a small building in Chelsea, Massachusetts, after much trial and error, as well as asking the right people the right questions, he and those working with him adapted the process that was perfected by the Aztecs and Mayans, known as nixtamalization. This creates a masa or dough from steeping and cooking dried corn in an alkaline solution, such as water mixed with lime, the stuff from rocks, not trees. Then grinding it on volcanic stones that have to be sharpened every couple of days. They started selling tortillas, but soon found the market around here wasn't all that interested in fresh artisan corn flatbread. We grew up on Wonder Bread. What did we know? Copying what had happened in California some 60 years before, he cut and fried the tortillas, making them last longer and easier to sell. Mamano expanded to Everett and then Needham as the business grew, finally settling at their current location in Brockton. They produce multiple flavors aside from the popular white corn chips, such as blue, pico de gallo, and chipotle lime, among others. The logo features a young girl making tortillas and is based on a photo Mamano took of his then 3-year-old daughter working with her grandmother making tortillas when visiting in Cuernavaca, Mexico. Her other grandmother, Chef Jamie's mother, turned that photo into a painting, which then became the logo and basis for the brand name. Who knew the best tasting tortilla chips came from New England? Now you know. Let's finish up cooking supper.
It's been about 15 minutes. Let's take a look at how the rice is. Oh, I think that's perfect. I'm going to turn off the heat. And place this right onto my pot holder. I've moved back over to the prep area. First we'll add in our corn niblets. I'll add in the chicken. I'm just going to add in both packets of ketchup. And as I mentioned, I'm just going to add 1 packet of hot sauce for the moment. Give that a stir. Oh, that smells really good. Now that's still a little wet. That's okay, because we're going to return it to the heat in just a moment. Let me see how hot this is. Oh yeah, that's got enough heat for me. If you like it really hot, you can add the second packet. I'm going to put this back on the stove and heat it all the way through. This probably won't require more than 3 to 5 minutes heating it over medium heat. I'll relight the stove. Just heat that through. Bring it back up to temperature. It won't take very long. I'm going to let that finish cooking and then we'll plate it up. Here's that Spanish rice. And we'll just plate this right up. Just like so. Spanish rice made with corn and chicken. I'm going to eat my supper and then I'll clean up my mess. If you've enjoyed this recipe, please give it a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know that you're interested in the content that I'm putting out. If you'd like to see more of this type of content, please be sure and subscribe to my channel. I put out a video just about every week on either mess kit cooking like this, or campgrounds in the New England area, or the camping gear that I use. If you have any thoughts or ideas, put them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you and I try to answer every single comment. In the meantime, get outside and thank you for watching. Oh, that's got a kick.